Welcome to this exciting panel discussion today. Today we'll be talking about tips to accelerate your fintech business in France. And my name is Claude Chevalier. I am your fintech expert and in charge of the financial services and fintech sector at the Paris region. To move slide this way. Yeah. So for those who don't know yet our services, Paris Region Services, we are the economic development agency of the Paris region. And our mission is to advise and support international companies looking to expand in the Paris region. And we provide free of charge services and confidential services that can be market insights, assistance with recruitment, legal support, and a dedicated team will be made to assist you for each project in the Paris region. So now, before we get to the agenda, I wanted to go over a few items. The first is the session recorded? Yes, the answer is yes. You will have a link to the replay very soon. There are a couple of ways to communicate. You can look at the tabs on the top right of your screen. You can use the chat to comment and or let us know if you have a technical problem, or you can just say hello and I am from London, Istanbul, whatever. There will be a Q&A session at the end. You can ask questions all along with this tab, and we'll try to get back to you at the end of the session. So let's take a look at the agenda. After the introduction of our four panelists, I'll give the floor to start the discussion for about half an hour. Then we will start the Q&A session. So please welcome our first speaker, Gimena Diaz. You can remind us what Onfido is doing in 2 minutes. Jimena, is it possible?
Of course. Thank you very much. First, thank you very much for the organization of this webinar, and hi to everyone. So I'm Jimena Diaz. I'm the VP of Southern Europe, Middle East and Africa, based in Paris at Onfido. And just in 2 minutes, what Onfido is doing. Onfido is an ID verification company. We are a UK company. That has already 8 offices around the world, one of them in Paris, clearly, but also Berlin, the US, New York, San Francisco, Singapore, and Lisbon. What we do on ID verification is essentially with a simple phone and a picture that the person is going to take on of their ID. We allow people to verify that their ID is a genuine one, and on top of that, we allow people to, with a selfie, we confirm to the company and to the fintechs and to the banks that they are in front of somebody and they can onboard somebody that where we did the correct KYC, meaning verify that they have the right ID, that it is genuine and that it corresponds to the right person. We do that in 196 countries with more than 4,500 types of documents, IDs, passports, driving license. So that's in essence what Onfido is doing all over the world.
Okay, so second speaker today, please welcome Daniele Genovesi. Daniele, please tell us what TRUFFLE Capital activity in the fintech sector. In 2 minutes, please.
Yeah, sure. Hi, everybody, and thanks for having me here. TRUFFLE Capital is a venture capital company that is based in Paris, in the business for roughly 20 years, historically investing in two main areas, one being IT and digital, and the other one being biotech and medtech. We still do that. Overall, we have roughly 500 million plus under management at the moment, and specifically one new fund dedicated to fintech and insurtech. It's a 150 million fund that we deploy through investment in early stage fintech and insurtech companies across Europe in terms of main geography, with of course a particular footprint in France. We tend to do tickets that are on average in the range between 2 and 5. We may flex higher, we may flex also lower, and we tend to cover from pre-seed seed up until early Series B. Series B, of course, with the European definition of the rounds, being particular investment direct.
Okay, thank you, Daniele. I introduce now to Jean-Marc Nourel, Country Manager of France for Checkout.com. Jean-Marc, please.
Yes. Hello.
Introduce us your activities in France in 2 minutes.
Thanks for the invitation, Claude. So very quickly, Checkout.com is a payment provider. So we are basically empowering the fintechs and the online merchants with our payment solution. One of our strengths is basically to regroup different bricks of the payment chain, which are basically the gateway, the acquiring, and the processing of the transactions. We have like near 1,000 people within the company across 12 offices around the world now, and here in France for a little bit than 2 years now, with a team still growing, and I am as the country manager for France and Italy, leading this team to success, I would say.
Thank you. Last but not least, please welcome Cyril Armange, Deputy CEO for Finance Innovation, or Finance Innovation as a French way. Could you please introduce Finance Innovation and your role in 2 minutes, Cyril?
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Claude, for your introduction. Just a couple of words about Finance Innovation in French way. We are the unique French financial industry cluster, funded in 2007 by the French public authorities and Paris Europlace, a professional organization in charge to develop and promote the Paris financial cluster. Our mission is very simple, is to accelerate the French leading roles in financial services sector by directly supporting the next generation of technology-led innovators. We help and contribute to create a global financial services sector more transparent, more sustainable, and more inclusive by breaking together and connecting the most forward-thinking participants in financial services. We also identified and give a label to the most promising fintechs in big data, in insurtech, in payment services, in sustainable finance. We have 600 members. Our membership range from innovative SMEs, bank and insurance corporation, global fintech hubs, VCs, accelerator, incubators, university, labs, and public authorities.
Thank you, Cyril. We'll move now to the ecosystem in the Paris region. And to start the discussion today, I have a question for Daniele. How would you describe the Paris region ecosystem to an international fintech listening today?
So thanks, Claude, for the question, and I'll start from a personal perspective, if I may. As you can probably guess from my accent, I'm not from France, neither from Paris. I'm actually Italian, and having lived abroad and work abroad in different countries, I can definitely tell you that the ecosystem in Paris today is incredibly thriving and has been growing I'm talking about the startup ecosystem, but also the investor ecosystem as well. So it's been growing at an incredible pace since the last 5 to 7 years. At the moment, you can find a startup ecosystem that is thriving. There are startups that made large rounds, nice exits, so they are setting up a model and a reference for other startups to actually launch and founders and team to be inspired. At the same time, you can find also the whole investor, I would say, value chain, meaning that you can find early stage investor to mid to late stage investors, as well as corporations that now more than before are prone to engage startups for partnering and as well as exit. So definitely, I mean, the description is only in comparison to what it was before on one side, so way more mature, and I would say it's probably the number 2 ecosystem in Europe now, from my perspective. And I would definitely recommend any companies that is doing business in Europe to seriously consider France, because it's a big market in Europe and it's fairly digital and the forefront of new technologies.
Thank you, Daniele. Now I have a question for Jean-Marc. How is the French e-commerce market doing?
Well, the French e-commerce market is doing pretty well, as you could guess. The first reason is basically that the French market is the French e-commerce market is one of the biggest in Europe. The second reason for that, obviously, as we all know, like this year was a bit special, a bit particular. So the e-commerce and the payment industry has been able to help a lot with growing figures on the market. We already know that basically the French e-commerce market should lend a little bit more around 100 billions for this year. And basically that is something that is still increasing. So yeah, to answer simply, we can say that the e-commerce market is doing quite well.
Yeah, thank you, Jean-Marc. I have another one. Checkout chose Paris to locate its hub for Europe in the wake of Brexit, in the anticipation of Brexit, because it took time a few months ago. Please, could you tell us the reasons why, and what are the consequences for your customers located in Europe?
Yeah, of course. So choosing France was not the only reason, I would say, in regards to Brexit. As I said, like the French market is one of the biggest, so it was clearly one of the moves we had to do, basically to open an office here locally and be able to correctly address the market with the right teams and like the right local teams. Of course, the Brexit is also part of the discussion, has been also part of it. Basically, we already started, thankfully, but finalizing our Brexit migration plan, as I could say. The impacts are quite clear for our merchants, mainly for our European merchants. Because we are a UK company, we are like shifting part of our business to our French entity. Prior to doing that, it has been like for now like a 2 years work on that, because we came to France not only to address the markets at commercial level, but also to get our e-money issuer license also in France. So we are now fully licensed in France, and this is something which is like really important for us. And one of the reason we chose the France for this to get our license is like we know that in Europe, like the French regulator is has like high level standards, and it means that having our license in France is definitely something very strong for us, like across Europe. And we know by having this license that we are also able to address the other European countries in a very good manner when it comes to compliance, basically.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. Now we can move on to Cyril. So Finance Innovation put together a new program to reinforce the ecosystem designed to international fintechs and international companies. It's called the Welcome Pack. Could you describe us the Welcome Pack, Cyril? Please.
Of course. The Welcome Pack is a sort of the one-stop shop program dedicated to all actors which have the ambition to deploy their business in France. We help them build the structure, be well informed, find talents, increase their visibility, and reach new clients and potential partners. By joining this program, we want to provide them to an access to a qualified and promising startup ecosystem, an approach to the most relevant knowledge in intelligence to help navigating the changing financial services landscape, and the most important, to create a single point to discuss, to debate, and create new ideas for the future of finance in our event. In in this slide, we have three packages: silver, gold, platinum, and we retrieve some services, some offer we can put on your business.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so this is a slide of the members of Finance Innovation Cluster.
Our members work across banking, peer-to-peer lending, blockchain, cryptocurrency, AI. We have a strong base with corporates in banking, in insurance, in real estate, asset management also. We are key players for the financial ecosystem in France.
Thank you. So let's move on to the accelerators, which are quite prominent in the French ecosystem. And regarding this ecosystem of startups, of programs welcoming fintechs in the Paris region, Cyril, which accelerators are available for fintechs in the Paris region?
Thank you, Claude. We have a strong collaboration with the Village by CA. Is an innovative platform powered by the Banque Postale. We work Crédit Agricole, sorry. We work with platform 58 based in Paris and created by the Banque Postale. We have a strong collaboration, and I focus on that with the SWAVE. The SWAVE is an incubation program dedicated to fintech and surtechs. This innovative platform was launched by the Hauts-de-Seine public authorities in partnership with Paris & Co. and other major players in the financial sector as Société Générale, Mastercard, Crédit Municipal de Paris, Kepler Chevalier, and more. In this project, we have the ambition to promote interaction, exchange of expertise, and commercial partnerships between the incubated startup and the major accounts and academic stakeholders. We have a strong interest in this incubation program. We want to recruit fintechs on 4 central topics: neofinance, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence, and sustainable finance, finance climate, solidarity finance.
Thank you, Cyril. And Gimena, you are located in Le SWAVE Accelerator. So what benefits do you get from this setup at Le SWAVE Accelerator?
Yes, indeed. So, well, essentially, at as said by Cyril, Le Suave is specialized in fintech. So first of all, there is this capability of being all together with a number of fintechs and discussing and understanding what are their needs and how they are working and developing themselves. There is also another advantage, which is the fact that Le Suave open the doors to a number of different companies, and for us and for other fintechs is also an opportunity to increase in the network. And like for any accelerator, network is one of the biggest elements that you need to launch in a new country. So essentially that's the two, and the fact of having an office in an environment. So Le Suave is based in La Défense, where you find most of the biggest banks and financial institutions. So essentially, when you're a fintech, if you're on top of that, goes to the Suave, you're going to be in the whole in the middle of the ecosystems, in the middle of an ecosystem that is close to your business.
And have you worked with some partners from Le Suave? Because I think they have 40 partners. Is it easy to partner with Le Suave's partners?
Well, there is a number of discussions that have passed, and yeah, we work with a number of them, and there are other discussions that were open, and it takes time to put in place. But essentially, that's the objective of Le Suave, which is opening the doors. Then it depends on every single company to close those doors and get into the next level.
Sure. Thank you for this testimonial. Now we'll move to the talents questions. Gimena, could you give us a feedback of searching new talents in the COVID period in Paris?
Yes, well, there is. So as probably people understood, we're in a quite specific sector with Onfido in the sector of the ID verification online. In an increased digitalized world, the KYC and the use cases aligned with that, password recovery and other type of use cases, increase the need for us to develop. Finding talents in a current situation, which is quite uncertain times, is probably more challenging than in periods of time where there is growth everywhere and there are not so much uncertainty, to be honest. So one of the things that we realized in 2020 was that we needed to be much more proactive in looking for talents and going more to explain and communicate around Onfido, around our evolution. And also there is another challenge that we're seeing is that most of us and other companies are fully today in remote working. Well, I recruited more than 20% of the team fully online, and I continue recruiting right now fully online. So that's another challenge. It's not easy to recruit and to where you don't see the people. So so I would say these are the two challenges that we're seeing right now.
Okay, thanks. Now a question for Jean-Marc. Can you share your experience of hiring staff in Paris? I think you have product staff, sales and marketing, and compliance people. So 3 types of categories. Can you share with us your experience?
Yes, indeed. So we have even more than that. So basically, our French office is an office where we find a lot of different type of profiles. So basically, we've started with a commercial team, meaning like we've hired sales managers, but also like customer success managers and sales and implementation engineers. But we also have now whole product team working on a specific project and product for the whole company as global, and of course all the roles necessary as a regulated entity So meaning when it comes to finance, to compliance, to legal. So we have everything in place now in France to basically ramp up our local entity and still recruiting people to actually grow the teams. We have a team now in France around like 35 people, but we have a lot of basically we have a kind of a huge recruitment plan until end of next year, which is basically be around like 100 people by the end of next year. So it's quite a huge plan for us also. And the recruitment process is quite easy. It depends, of course, of the type of profiles and people that we are looking for. But as a whole, it's quite easygoing for the hiring process here in France.
Okay, thanks. Quite amazing growth of your staff, and congratulations. And so let's move on to the job boards available for your fintech in Paris region. So welcome to the jungle seems to be quite appreciated across the board by fintechs. Doc Finance as a second choice, I would say, and Glassdoor are indeed quite generalist job board that can give visibility and company ratings and salaries. So both quite useful as well, appreciated by fintechs in the Paris region. So we are as well connected to business school in Paris. So they like to join innovative and fast-growing fintechs. And so we have an expert in HR that could support all this growth and hiring process. So now we move to fundraising, which is quite an interesting topic to cover. And a question for Daniele, what are Truffle's criteria to invest in a fintech?
Thanks for the question, Claude. So first of all, of course, it goes with the, let me start with the most obvious. It needs to be a business that is related in a way to everything that is finance, insurance, payments, etc. So it needs to have liaison to what is called fintech. What do we also require is not only that there is a tick done on the fin part, but also on the tech side of the thing. So it needs to be a technology-enabled business, and something that normally or sometimes can be forgotten is that we are still talking about startups. So the first and most important things that we ask is that the business needs to be a business with a capacity to scale. That is the definition of a startup for an investor. So those are the main obvious point. Then getting a bit more into the details of the type of businesses that we like at Truffle. We do like, in particular, B2B businesses for several reasons. Main one being that if the product has a value delivered to the client, it's going to be easier to identify this value earlier on during the development of the company, and therefore easier for us to form an opinion on the investment. But we do also remain open to B2C businesses. We have a mix of them in the portfolio at the moment, and we span any sector from again remittance down to cybersecurity applied to the finance environment.
Okay, thank you, Daniele. And so just key figures to give you, 669 million euro were raised by French fintechs in 2020, so this year, up to 30 October, which is quite in line with what was done last year, so in a normal period. So that's quite an achievement to match what was done last year, considering the pandemic. And regarding the VC funding available, so not only Truffle Capital, but Kima Ventures is active, plug and play from California, as an office in Paris, and Briga Capital as well. They are quite active for seed investment in fintechs. And just to give you an information about the top 4 funding rounds this year so far. So the year is not finished, but October seems to appear number 1 for lending marketplace, 258 million euros, and they are helping companies in this COVID period raising money as a lending marketplace. So Conto, the neobank, serving several European markets. So Swile as well has received 70 million in financement, in funding, and Alan, the digital health insurance, 50 million. So what's quite striking this year, there are more international investors in this funding rounds for French fintechs. Now, regarding events, let's move to events which are quite important in Paris. And Cyril, which events are worth attending for fintechs in Paris? Could you have your view on this?
Yeah, it's a very difficult question. There are so many events in Paris, but I think there are 2 events you must attend before you die. The Paris Fintech Forum is the first one. The Paris Fintech Forum is a sort of the Davos of digital finance and fintech. This big event gathers more 300 CEOs from banks, regulatory, insurers, fintechs from all over the world. There are nearly 3,000 participants from more 60 countries. We have 700 fintechs CEO on stage. Is already the big event in Paris in financial and fintech ecosystem. I think Paris Blockchain Week is another one. This conference brought together 1,500 entrepreneurs, investors, startups, media from all over the world to talk about blockchain and cryptocurrency. We can also mention Paris Retail Week. I think is a Europe biggest meeting for all the retailing ecosystem. I think also to AI for finance. This event gathers the European AI ecosystem with the European financial ecosystem, corporate, startup, fintechs, research lab. They have the ambition to spotlight the top use case of artificial intelligence in financial industry. I think this 4-1 event is a must-have for me. It's a must-have attended for me.
Okay, thank you, Cyril. And what about you, Jean-Marc? Which trade shows are relevant for fintechs, according to you?
So it depends. So on our side, as a payment company, so some of the events that Cyril was mentioning worth attending. Basically, that's the case for Paris Fintech Forum, which I believe will be like slightly different in 2021, basically due to what we are going through. But as a payment company, we also have like some other events, major events, such as Paris Retail Week, such as Les Big Boss, which are like really niche in our industry. But of course, some other events like Viva Technology also worth for us, like visiting the event, at least to know of course, what is going on within the ecosystem, of course, and meet the ecosystem basically.
Thank you, Jean-Marc. And Gimena, which events do you attend for Onfido in France?
So essentially, well, I'm going to repeat a little bit of what Jean-Marc has said. We're a little bit more oriented on fintechs and artificial intelligence. So on top of Paris Fintech Forum, which indeed is one kind of must attend, that is changing and going kind of fully online, at least on 2021, and we'll see what is going to be the next. There is also Vivatech, A for Finance, and a number of webinars and digital events on fintech community. Essentially, well, 2020 has been a special time. The only event physical that we attended was Paris Fintech Forum in January, end of January, and then the other one, which is more oriented on the ID part, which is ID Forum in the north of France. That happened end of January, and then since then there has been no more physical events, and everything has been gone digital.
Okay, thank you for your sharing your experience, and that's very interesting. And regarding Europe, European projects, so finance innovation is involved in several projects, whether it's H2020 or EIT Digital. Cyril, could you give us information on which projects are you involved with in Europe?
Yep. The European project is a new frontier, like said Kennedy for finance innovation. Our main objective is to collaborate with European partners and help business and entrepreneurs to bring digital innovation to market. We are currently an active member of 4 European consortia. This slide shows them. Infinitech project. Infinitech project is a joint effort of global leaders in finance towards lowering the barriers for big data, IoT, AI, driven innovation, boosting regulatory compliance and stimulating additional investment. The finance innovation role is to inform, engage and promote the project to all possible interested bodies. The second one is a UFO project. The goal of this project is to support European SME to develop innovative products and services by integrating new solutions provided by small flying objects. Our role is to assure the sustainability of funding SME by matching the project with the best private investors. We are also partner for EIT Digitals with the CREST project. The CREST project is a fully automated platform that help fintech actors to hedge investment in foreign currency against market risk. We contribute to the business model and go-to-market strategic for this project. We have the same job with the AIMS project. Is a digital movable asset registry based on blockchain to create a new ecosystem to boost the issuing of credit lines toward SMEs granted by trusted and registered collateral.
Okay, thank you. That was very insightful. So let's move on to other questions, like one for Gimena. What solutions do fintechs need for the KYC?
So yeah, indeed, as a number of you know, the fintechs and financial institutions are in general regulated. And as regulated entities, they need to verify that they know their customers, so the KYC services. That's one of the biggest use case that Onfido provides. We provide the ID verification for KYC, and most of the fintechs that are regulated need to verify the identity of the people they are onboarding, especially because fintechs in general are online, so they don't have the capability, branches or whatever, the capability to see face-to-face and confirm the identity of the person they are opening their services to. But what we have seen, so definitely there is one of the challenges of 2020 is the increase in digitalization. We all know that essentially we, at least in France, won 5 years of digitalization in terms of acceleration in 2020. And with that, we have seen as Onfido a number of other use cases that have that were open in the context of lockdown. One of them, for example, has been password recovery. Fintechs, once you have your account with a fintech, that doesn't mean that it's done. You could have an issue in terms of password, and making a verification, a good verification of the identity of the person you're given the password to access their bank account or their online banking is very important. The other thing that we saw with the pandemic right now was that a number of financial institutions needed to use much more fintechs and needed to give an access online to a number of things that were before on face-to-face. So accessing online your bank account for people that were going to branches before, it became obvious that when you're locked down and the branches are closed, you need to make sure that you're giving an access online to a service to somebody that is who he really says he is. So an ID, a verification of the ID and the selfie has been a new type of usage. So fintechs, if I have to say in a nutshell, they need very clearly to be compliant with the regulation, which is specific to each country. There is the AML European regulation, but also the local regulation. And for that, they in general need KYC solutions.
Thank you. Very insightful information. And the question now for Daniele. Which products are you looking for in the new companies that you scan?
Let's say as an investor is focused on fintech and insurtech, we do have some preference in the area or industries where the companies are attacking the market, but we don't have strong opinion on specific products. So the important things for us is that there is a product that is tech enabled and that can be scaled actually, so that the need of fundraising with venture capital can be justified. Of course, fundraising with venture capitalists is the most expensive fundraising that you can do, because in the industry we are going to ask a part of your company. So therefore, that needs to be justified by a big potential of scales. Other than that, of course, not only the fact that there is a scale that can be put in place, we like that the market where the product is delivered is a big market with a clear value added, and we still remain sensitive to business models that can allow a certain profitability at least a few years down the line. So that boils it down to a lot of B2B, for instance, but we're still excited on B2Cs as well. Of course, since we do kind of early stage investment, the team still play a super important role in the way we filter companies. So not to take anything away from the product, but it needs to be it needs to lay on top of a foundation layer that is the founding team that needs to be quite stellar.
Okay. Very interesting information for us and for fintechs listening. And another one for Daniele is AI a game changer to revolutionize some financial functions in your investment?
Good question. Having a bit of a nerdy background from an academic perspective, I'm all about AI and new technologies. And I do think that there is great potential that new technologies can untap for new businesses and startups. However, taking in the shoes of the investor or the head of the investors, I must say that I do believe that technologies needs to be considered like a means to an end. So talking broadly about AI or any other technology, for that sake, without having the context of the product and the improvement that these technology can deliver versus the usual and current state of the art, can be a bit misleading. So I'm bullish on the fact that AI can play a big role in specific industries. Of course, this has been already largely demonstrated. For instance, advertising, where AI can do a lot in segmentation, identifying potential customers. Same thing, of course, in KYC, and I'm relating to what Gimena was saying before. So really, I would say it's a case-by-case call, but the potential is there. It needs to be associated with a value that needs to be delivered through a product to an end client.
Thank you. Very interesting. And Gimena, could you tell us what is your challenge for the next 12 months in your business in Paris?
Yes, of course. Thank you for the question. So for the next 12 months, well, one of the biggest challenge for us, we have been in France for 2 years now. We're clearly accelerating our growth. So recruiting and scaling the team is one of our biggest challenge. On top of that, we are working a lot on increasing our market share and developing new use cases. As I explained, the digitalization of the economy and of the world in an accelerated mode for the past year has created and opened a number of doors in terms of use cases that we're analyzing and working on, and continue our internationalization, because essentially from Paris we are not only addressing the French market, but also the whole Southern European market. And for that, well, that's one of our challenges, where we have a pretty good footprint in France and starting to have an increased footprint in Italy, Spain, and Portugal.
Okay, very informative for us. Thank you for the information. And so now we'll move to the Q&A session. And yeah, that's our Q&A slide. So attendees won't be able to ask questions via audio, only written questions. And the questions for Daniele, what would be the top 3 areas to pay attention to enter the French market? So top 3 areas to pay attention to enter the French market.
Yeah, so let's. I'm assuming this is for a startup that wants to penetrate the French market. First one is network, and again, as Gimena well put it before, network is important because it's the one main dimension of doors opening or business dev, depends how you want to describe it. So network is paramount. How can you get or improve your network in the local ecosystem? Of course, you can just go in and open a shop. You can also making sure that in your fundraising activity, you onboard local investors. That's a lot of what we do. for instance. That, of course, are people that are based locally, that have a big network, so they can actually share this network with the company. And third is to find a way to strike an initial contract or partnership if the product is allows it. Otherwise, just to try to launch in the country and show some traction. So when the traction is there, little traction is sufficient, then you're going to be able to get attention from, again, potential investor, potential partners, and that's how you can go. So I would say those three things: network, and can be done through investors or reaching out to events, as we mentioned before, and brute force, in a way, setting up shop, especially if the business is digital and can be done with limited amount of money. But I think the smartest way is to go through networking.
Okay, thank you very much. I agree with you. And what about you, Gimena? What would be the top 3 areas to pay attention to enter the French market?
Well, I completely agree with what Daniele said. The other essential thing is, what is your target? Who are you addressing? You know, that's sometimes is the same that in your own market or in your local market, but it can be different. And knowing perfectly well and understanding your market and and what is your value proposition in that market is essential to address a market. It seems it could be seen as very obvious, but it's not so much, and it can be a challenge. Acting local is, I would say, the second one, meaning having a way of addressing you know, having people speak in French, having your documentation in French, making sure that you know who you're addressing and acting the most local possible. That's another thing, and essentially knowing, indeed, having a good network to start with, and start to have the first, let's say, the first references that will allow you to engage in the market and increase and develop.
Thank you very much. Jean-Marc, are you with us?
Yes, I am. Sorry, I have like a lot of connection issues.
Yeah, but the sound is okay now. Yes, I have a question what are your plans for the French market in the next 12 months for checkout?
So the plan is very simple for us. Basically, it relies on two I would say, big two projects, if I could say that. The first one, of course, is to strengthen our position onto the French market and enter, of course, negotiations, but also be able to provide our solution to more local merchants into the payment industry. And the second one is also to strengthen our position as an entity, as a regulated company in France, and be sure that we have all what's needed in terms of license, but also of compliance, in order for us to support and increase our European business.
Okay, and in the wake of what Daniele and Gimena answered, what would be, according to you, the top 3 areas to pay attention to enter the French market, Jean-Marc?
I think what Gimena was saying is quite important when entering a market. One of the key success is to act local. There is a word I'm used to and that I particularly like, is like the word glocal, meaning that for companies like ours, it's important to be in different regions. As a payment company, it's important for us to be in different regions and provide our merchants to succeed in those regions. But it's very also important to have like local presence, because the local presence brings expertise, especially in our industry. So for me, it's like the top, one of the top priority to look at when entering a new market. Be sure that we have like the local teams and the local expertise to answer the clients and merchants needs, basically. And the second one also, depending on the type of activity the company is doing, is of course to be sure to comply with the law and the regulation, which is something like very important, and that usually takes time. So before entering any market, like very quickly, I think fintechs also should consider on what are the regulations over there. Are these like European regulations? Are these local regulations? And to be sure that when entering the market, they already comply with them, basically.
Okay, thank you very much. Very insightful. And a last question for Gimena. What impact has brought the acceleration in digital banking this year for you?
Well, as I said earlier, clearly, as we are integrated in the beginning of the process, meaning in general the onboarding, the more digital banking is entering into the more the banking is becoming digital, or the fintechs are developing, the more they need to make sure that they are giving their opening their service to the right people. We were talking about regulation. Jean-Marc was talking about regulation. One of the clear obligation in digital in banking, and especially in digital, is making sure that you're offering your banking service to the right person, that this person is allowed to have access to an account and is not doing any particular not right type of activities. So for that, you need to check that you know your customer, and that's comes with an ID verification.
Thank you very much. So now it's time to wrap up, and thank you to our four guests that gave us very concrete examples and testimonials. And we look forward to having you in another webinar, and that will be planned next year. But so far, I have to tell you bye-bye and have a very nice Christmas. And let's keep in touch, and we'll keep there for now.
Daniele,
thank you very much.
Claude, we have 3 questions from the participant. One is there any fintech supporting structure working remotely, given the current situation?
Yes.
I can help on that one.
Yes.
Clément, I think most of the people are working remotely. I must say we have been working remotely since March, beginning of this year. So there is a lot of companies, and fintech in particular. One of the advantage of the digital for a number of fintechs is the capability to work remotely more easily than others.
Thank you. And we have another questions. What is the best way to develop a payment disruptive infrastructure in Europe with French partners? So Jean-Marc, it's more your side, maybe payment. What is the best way
what is, sorry, the best way to
develop a disruptive payment infrastructure in Europe with French partners?
Oh yeah, okay. Well, I think so. There are basically like 2 questions in one, I think. First is like developing like a disruptive payment company as a whole, and not only on the French market. But this is something that, like, to answer like very quickly, the thing which is like very important is knowing what the value. What is the value brought on the table when you are basically developing your product compared to your competitors, basically. On our side, we have like a very clear strategy, which is to be the best in class in terms of online payments. And it means everything, where we can see today, like a lot of our competitors going on to other type of markets, for instance, like physical payment in stores, etc. Our strategy on our side is like very clear, and all the products that we are basically working on and finalizing is serving this pure and online strategy. So the first answer would be clear in the strategy that you are building for your product. And the second one, the second part of the question regarding the French partners, I think it's very linked to one of the topics we had in the conclusion, meaning like when you are entering a market, it's very important also to map the local ecosystem. And on our side, the French ecosystem is composed of a wide range of partners, such as like e-commerce platforms, agencies, system integrators, etc. And that's really important for us to basically work closely with these kind of companies in order to succeed on the French market.
Thank you. And the last question asked was, can you mention subsidies available either from Paris region, from France, or from Europe? So I can take that one. From Paris region, you have the starter pack designed for startups that could create jobs in the Paris region. So you need first to be registered, and the subsidies will be based on a fraction of your cost. And this is not related to innovation or research, purely to business activities and to the invoice you can show. And from France, there are a lot of subsidies regarding innovation and research. We can mention the research tax credit, which is one of the most generous in Europe, with about 30% cover of your cost in research and development. And from Europe, there was a program mentioned by Cyril earlier that you can join, and that are quite interesting. So EIT Digital and H2020, so Horizon 2020 programs. So these are the three I would recommend, among others. So I think we have no more questions, and it's time now to close, because we have exceeded our 1 hour initial timeline. And thank you again to our panelists and for the amazing contribution. And we will get back to you if you have any questions or information to ask from us. And thank you very much, and have a good day, and bye-bye now.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.